Hey Jim, what you got? Is it dead yet? You crazy dog. Hi everybody, welcome back. My goodness, it's been ages. I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to be away this long. Summer has been a lot. So welcome back to any of my regular viewers. Thank you for hanging around waiting for me. And welcome to any new viewers who have just found me. Normally I try and podcast every other week, but I don't seem to have managed that for about the last 6 months. So I'm just doing my best over here. You can find me on Ravelry and on Instagram as pinsandneedlesuk. My name is Zoe. I live on Barry Island in South Wales with my husband and my 3 kids and Jim the dog. If I'm sounding a little funny, I'm just getting over a real humdinger of a cold with a slight edge of tonsillitis. So not COVID, I checked. So if I'm sounding a little Mariella Frostrup today, that's what it is. And somewhat unfortunately for my poor voice quality, I don't have a huge amount of knitting to share, but I do have a lot of talking to do. So I might fade out over the course of the podcast. Right, I've got some fabulous news for you all, which is that sales for the Knit Tea Retreat that takes place on the 22nd to 24th of October at Insole Court in Cardiff. Those tickets will be going on sale on Saturday the 18th of September, that's this coming Saturday, for everyone that is signed up to the Knit Tea Retreat newsletter. There are only 35 places available because of restrictions due to COVID, and we expect them to go fast. So if you know that you want to come and join us, and I would love you to, please make sure that you're signed up to the newsletter. If you check the drop-down box below, I leave a link in there that will take you right to the page on the website where you can sign up for the newsletter, so don't miss out. If we have any places left after the newsletter subscribers have had first dibs, those will be made available to the general public on Sunday the 19th of September, again at midday. If you've been, I should say actually, if you're new, I run a couple of businesses with my best friend Jenny, who is Owl About Yarn, and together we run the Knit Tea Retreat, which are UK-based online and in-person retreats, and this October will hopefully be our first in-person retreat since the whole start of the pandemic. And we also run our own Welsh yarn company called Cardiff Yarn, and again, links to that are down below in the drop-down box. But for the lovely podcast viewers, I will quickly run through the details of the October retreat because it's going to be an absolute cracker. I typed it all up in my show notes on my laptop so I don't miss anything. Let me just scroll down. So the dates of the retreat are the 22nd to 24th of October. It takes place at Insole Court, which is a suburb of Cardiff, and there are 35 places available. We've got 4 fabulous tutors. If you follow us on Instagram, you will have seen these pictures pop up. We have the fabulous Mina Philipp, who is Knitting Expat, the podcaster. She's going to be teaching 2-colour brioche and also Marling Made Easy. We have Natalie Warner, who is at Natalie in Stitches. She's just finished teaching at Vogue Knitting Live, and she's going to be offering classes called Change One Thing, which is about experimentation and design development, and also Introduction to Lace. So for looking to move your lace knowledge on from super simple into directional increases and decreases and things like that. And then we've got some firsts for the Knit Tea Retreat, which we're very excited about. First of all, we have Louisa Sheward, who is at Tenaciously She on Instagram, and she's a crochet teacher and previous local yarn shop owner, and she's going to be taking workshops on Intarsia, basic Amigurumi, Jim's whinging at me. Yeah, Intarsia, basic Amigurumi, and what she called Crochetlecution, which is basically finishing techniques. That's the first time we're having crochet, and I know people have been asking for it, so if that was you, make sure you get yourself a ticket. And then our 4th tutor is Julie Hicks, who is Julie Hicks at Julie_Hicks_Textiles on Instagram. And she's going to be offering classes on needle punch, which I'm quite excited about, and also macrame and loom weaving. So really expanding our fibre craft offerings. Very excited to have all of those people with us. Tickets are going to be £290. The deposit of £135 will be due within 72 hours of receiving an invoice from us, and the balance of £155 will be due on the 8th of October. That's a higher increase than we were hoping to do, because we've had to restrict the number of places for COVID security reasons. We've had to put the price up because it still costs us the same to hire Insole Court, even though we usually have 50 people. So unfortunately we've had to nudge the price up a bit. We are reasonably confident that it's going to go ahead in person, but we have made provision for if it's online, if Welsh Government rules mean that we have to move it online. And when you go through to the booking form, there will be options that you can select, and you can choose online only. So if you're abroad or not a fan of travel, you can select for online only. You can select in person only, or you can select online or in person. So there's 3 different options. It will be going ahead in person if we can manage it. And if that's the case, there will be no online option, and we would not charge you any money for that, obviously. And then if people are interested in either option, so they just want to come no matter how we host it, that's fine too. So for our previous online retreats, we have had people from overseas. Feel free to sign up for online only, and we'll be making the decision if we need to change it to online 2 weeks before the actual date. What else did I need to tell you? Oh yes, the £290 gets you 2 workshops, and you can list your order of preference for those workshops that I mentioned. And it also includes an exclusive gift bag worth at least £40. Unlimited, excuse me, unlimited tea, coffee, cake, squash and water. Access to the Friday night social and the Saturday night social, and there's door prizes and there's giveaways. We're doing our bring and take table again, like a massive craft material swap. It's going to be brilliant. There is, as usual, the Sunday afternoon marketplace. That's on Sunday the 24th from 2 until 5. Members of the public are welcome to that as well, but obviously we'll have a limit for the number of people that can be in the main hall at any one time. So if you do turn up, we would love to have you. You might have to linger outside for a little bit until it's safe for you to go in and take your turn. So for anyone that didn't quite make it all through that, sign up to the newsletter via the link in the drop-down box. Tickets go on sale on Saturday the 18th at midday for newsletter subscribers, and if there are any left, on Sunday at midday for members of the public. And now I think I deserve a drink of squash. Works in progress, because I have no finished objects. I think I mentioned on the last podcast. Did I mention on the last podcast? I can't remember if I did. I signed up to do a test knit for Susan Crawford. I've completely missed the deadline. It was 28th of August and I'm still not finished. But I've been knitting almost exclusively on that cardigan, which I cannot show you until the pattern is released. I'm recording a project vlog for that though, so when the pattern's released, I'll have a couple of videos up on my channel and you can follow me knit my way through this pattern. So I have got a couple of other sort of works in progress to show you, but I haven't actually worked on them for weeks because of this test knit. I have been knitting this top, the Rift Tee by Jacqueline Cieslak, for what feels like a year. It's probably not a year, but it feels like it. And the last time I showed it to you, I was just about here. I was just about to split for the armholes. This yarn is by Knit Crate. I'm part of their ambassador scheme. It was sent to me, and it is Ordine Wool's Interlock in the colourway Beaches. And I think I'm at the point where I want to light this on fire and throw it into the sea. I only had 2 skeins of this yarn, so I was cutting it a little fine. And having knitted up to the armpits, I was worried about if it would be long enough. I added a couple of inches of length to it because I'm very tall, and although it's supposed to be cropped, I didn't want a boob tube. So I knitted, I think, 3 more inches than the pattern required. And then I threw curry over the hem of it, which I managed to get out actually. I used some Vanish and set it out in the sun to bleach, and it came up beautifully. And then I persevered, mostly whilst watching the Tour de France, which I really enjoyed. I persevered finishing off the top. And I did short rows for the shoulders, and then you pick up and bind off around the neck. And then I tried it on, and oh my goodness. I love the colour of the yarn, but it makes me look like I died 6 weeks ago, which isn't ideal. And in spite of the fact that I added 3 inches of length, it sits above my stomach, above my navel, which is really not a good look when you've had 3 kids. The armholes are a little bit short. I'm 6'1", so I'm longer everywhere. So it kind of sits a little bit high up in my armpit, which I don't like. And I was between sizes for the measurements, so I went down a size because of my limited yarn. And it has approximately 0 ease, which is deeply unflattering. The only thing I've got left to do is to pick up around the armholes and knit 1/2 inch of rib, and it's done. There is no way in hell I'm ever going to wear this. So I think perhaps what I'll do is I'll add the rib around the armholes, and maybe I'll just quietly put it on the bring and take table at the retreat. If I measure the dimensions of it, like the chest circumference and the length from the shoulder to the hem, and write that on a label and pin it to the top, maybe somebody else there would love to wear it, because the pattern's lovely. I really like it. I love the split hem that's longer at the back. It's got this interesting twisted rib bit up the side. I just picked completely the wrong size and didn't knit it long enough, so that's a bit of a disaster. But there we go. It is what it is. The only other work in progress I've got to show you is also a bit of a disaster, which is increasingly unfortunate. A while ago, I knit a pair of socks for a friend of mine in some beautiful yarn, and I think I had just enough left over to knit a pair of summer shorty socks for me, which is what I did. So this pattern is called the Willow Socklets by, I have no idea how you pronounce this, Turnithan? I don't know, I'll write it in the box down below. If I show you the sole first so you can enjoy the gorgeous yarn, look at that. Is that going to focus? There we go. So this yarn is dyed by Attic Spin Dye in the colourway Peach Sorbet Sprinkles. And it's not a colour that I usually go for, but I just fell in love with it on the internet and bought it. I apologise. I normally knit a 72 stitch sock. I've got big feet. I've got UK size 10 feet, 10.5. And I fancied some lacy socks. And this sock pattern has columns of lacy stitches going all the way down the sock. And I thought that's just perfect. It's simple enough. I don't need to read the pattern. I got it stuck in my head. It was fine. And it's a free pattern, and the only size it comes written for is 72 stitches. And when I read that, I thought, oh, perfect, I need 72 stitches. What didn't occur to me is that for most women's socks, 64 stitches is the default. And if you're publishing a free pattern with only one size, it's not very likely to be in a size that would fit someone with size 10.5 feet. So I knitted the first sock, all except for grafting the toe, on my usual needles, which is 2.25. I can get them on, but it pulls horribly across here. It really pulls the lace pattern out and looks pretty miserable. But I did manage to get the whole sock out of half of my leftovers with a little nubbin left over. So I thought, okay, well, I'll knit the other sock on larger needles. And I do have some nice contrast yarn that would work. So this is the second sock knit on 2.5mm needles. And it fits much better. The only problem is I've kind of gone off the pattern, and also I made a mistake. Can you spot the mistake? Just here, the lace pattern went off. And having knitted it and put it on my foot, it just reminded me of the sort of the multi-pack white lace socks I used to wear as a little girl when I went to primary school. So I've knitted school socks. Yeah. So I knitted most of this sock when I was taking just a couple of days break from my secret test knit when we were away for a few days in Henley-on-Thames as a family. And I thought, oh, you're on holiday, treat yourself, knit something that isn't a massive cardigan. So I knit this sock, and it's, you know, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. It's just not quite what I was hoping for. So at some point I'm going to have to rip out the first sock and re-knit it. So I'll have knitted 3 socks. So between my rift not being great and my socks not quite being right either, it's not been great. And I am really getting to the very bored stage of knitting the test knit. I really haven't knit anything else for actual weeks apart from this test knit, and it's still not done. So I'm running out of enthusiasm and starting to daydream about all the other things I can knit when this test knit is finished. So I'm afraid that's the end of the knitting, because obviously I can't show you the secret test knit. Luckily for you, I did, however, completely lose control of my mind and my Visa card and buy a lot of wool. At the risk of boring you all, our summer knit tea retreat that was supposed to have taken place in June 2020 eventually took place online in August 2021, which was not ideal, but an awful lot better than cancelling the whole thing. So we took it all online. We had a couple of brilliant speakers. We had Charlie from Charlie Button Yarns give us a talk on the terrible knitters of Dent. We had Dr. Zoe Fletcher, who is at the Woolist on Instagram, and she gave us a brilliant talk all about her PhD project. And she worked on developing a reference system, both on paper and digitally, to provide textile designers and manufacturers in the UK with a comprehensive directory of different British sheep breeds, so that they could have the information they needed to select appropriate breeds of sheep for the yarn for their textiles, as opposed to just buying homogenous wool from abroad. Fascinating talk, really quite technical and sciencey. I absolutely loved it. And she does have a website, thewoolist.co.uk, I think. Again, I'll link it down below. So if you're interested, or if you're a designer of some sort yourself, do go and have a look at her website. It's fabulous. But as part of the retreat, we always have a marketplace. And obviously for the online one, it takes place online. Let me just move my my laptop out of the way. So I haven't bought wool for ages because buying yarn does not come with the time to knit it, which is a bit of a shocker. But I've been good for so long, and to be honest, although I was thrilled we could do the retreat online, I was a bit cross that we couldn't do it in person. This whole thing's just getting a bit tedious now. So I cheered myself up by buying yarn. I don't have the online retreat attendees got a gift bag that we sent out to them in the post, and it had some goodies in it, and I don't have the skein of yarn that I got to keep, but it was an lovely colourway by Jenny. We also included these lovely Emma Ball knitting journals. So these are ones with puffins in jumpers, knitting on them, and there's one on the back juggling balls of yarn. And there's also a woolly sheep one and other woolly friends with alpacas and llamas on it. And the paper itself is grid on one side and lined on the other, which is perfect, particularly like me if you do bits and bobs of designing. And then they have a whole page on the inside of useful information. So yarn weights, knitting needle conversion chart, increase and decrease stitches, and the instructions for Kitchener stitch as well. So I got to keep one of those. And then for other things that I bought some Emma Ball cards. Now these I all sourced from Angela, who is Yarn and Yarns. Again, she's linked down below. And I bought a lovely murmuration card, a woolly sheep card, and 3 woolly sheep cards. I haven't decided if these are going to be used as cards to send to people or if I might just frame them and put them on a wall. And also from Yarn and Yarns, I bought quite a bit of West Yorkshire Spinners. I love their birds range. They have a West Yorkshire Spinners birds range, and I bought this one, which is mallard, and this one, which is pheasant. I knit my dad some Christmas socks in the pheasant colourway a while ago, and I really love the colour, so I bought another ball for me. And then a ball of mallard, which I will knit up for him. I've lost track of where I'm at with my Christmas knitting. This might have to be this year's Christmas socks. We'll wait and see. And I also bought from Angela this year's Christmas colourway from West Yorkshire Spinners. And this is their vintage tinsel colourway. And the colourway number is 1051. And it's sparkly and slightly out of focus. There we go. Absolutely beautiful. I was so entranced with it, I bought 2 balls. So one is going to be socks, and I think the other is going to be fingerless mitts, or possibly a hat, or maybe both. So yes, I did quite a bit of damage in Angela's shop. The other thing I bought from one of our vendors was a skein of self-striping sock yarn by Dragon Hill Studio, and it's their Chepstow sock 4-ply, which is 75/25 blue face Leicester and nylon, and this colourway is called Bright Colour Wheel, and it comes ready caked. This is just a yellow ribbon, but then they wrap the yarn around the side so you can see the stripe sequence, and how cheerful is that? Absolutely beautiful. So when I get around to casting that on, I'm going to try and solve my dilemma of heels. The only heel I like to knit and that I've found that fits me properly is a heel flap and gusset, which with self-striping yarn interrupts the striping sequence. And I have never yet managed to find a heel that fits me that doesn't interrupt the patterning. I know there's a million different sorts of afterthought heels, they just don't fit me properly, so I need to spend some time faffing around with that to try and make it work. My last purchase was a skein of fibre from Jenny, Owl About Yarn, and this was last autumn's special Knit Tea Retreat colourway. I bought 100 grams of exactly the same fibre from her last year, spun it up and loved it so much I wanted another one, and I'm going to try and incorporate it into a colourwork yoke. This is her custom blend. As far as I'm aware, she's the only person that has this. It's a blue face Leicester and rose combination, and this is in the colourway Turning Leaves. And if you love it, I'm afraid I've got the last braid. She might still have some left on yarn. She did an exclusive colourway for fibre and for yarn, so you could always head over to her website and have a look. So that was my retreat purchases. 5 skeins of sock yarn, 100 grams of fibre and some cards. And then my mum came down to visit me, my mum and dad, 10 days ago now. And mum bought me a skein of Regia sock yarn called, it's their Candy Colour range. And it's colourway 01163. This actually looks quite Christmassy too. It's reds and greens and sort of an olivey brown colour. And And I'm going to knit these up into socks for my dad. He loves my hand knit socks. He wears them pretty much exclusively, so he could do with another pair. But he's got even bigger feet than me, so she brought it down now, so I've got time to knit it up for Christmas. So I hope my outrageous purchasing of yarn has made up for the lack of knitting content on this podcast. If it helps, I am really missing knitting other things. I'm missing knitting my colourwork cardigan. I'm aching to spin up some of that beautiful John Arbon fibre that I bought on the mill weekend. Yeah. And it does make for a rather brief podcast. What am I? 26 minutes in and I'm kind of done. So I think the only thing left is a little bit of life update. We went away for 4 days. It's the only time we could manage to get off from work. And my lovely sister-in-law, who lives in Henley-on-Thames, had gone away with her family to North Wales. And she very kindly said that we could stay at her house for a few days just to be somewhere different. And although I've been to her house several times, I've never really been into Henley-on-Thames and looked around the area. And the weekend we went down coincided with their traditional boat festival. And it was absolutely hilarious. It was like a window into another world. There were so many people with so much money, I couldn't quite get my head around it. And all the men were wearing that sort of weird shade of salmon pink chinos and really stripy blazers. And people had special sticks that you poked into the ground, like a wire stick with a circle on the top that you could put your champagne flute in. And I thought, who even has special sticks for putting your champagne glass in when you're drinking by the river? And just parades of beautiful, incredibly expensive boats. So we had a day down at the traditional boat festival, which was good fun. I did spot the local knitting and spinning guild, so I dashed over to say hello. And there were some lovely ladies knitting away on some Ashford wheels. And I had a nice chat with them. And that was the first time that they'd been together in person since the pandemic as well. So I didn't linger because they were far more interested in catching up with their friends than talking to some random person from Wales. But it was always nice to find some fellow crafters. We had a good look around the town, which felt quite familiar. I grew up in Stratford-on-Avon, which is the birthplace of Shakespeare, in case you didn't know, and quite a small medieval kind of town. And Henley-on-Thames felt very similar. So we had a good look around. They had lots of independent shops, which was nice to see. And we had some nice pub lunches. And what else did we do? Yeah, long walks by the river, and that was about it really. We were pretty tired by the time we got there, and we didn't really have much time. One thing I did buy is a basket, and I'm keeping my test knit in, so I'm going to have to heave that out onto the floor. But look at that. There was some frighteningly expensive homewares shop that Jocelyn and I were looking in the window of, and they had all these beautiful baskets, and I thought they would be eye-wateringly expensive, but it was only £21, and it's got these lovely handles on, and it is just perfect. And so I've got all the bits and bobs I need for my cardigan in the bottom, balls of wool and about 6 different sorts of needles and all the rest of it. So there's one more acquisition. I can't remember the name of the shop, I'm afraid, so don't ask me because I can't remember. Been super busy at work. Lots of personal training clients, and now that it's September, people are starting to come back and sign up to the gym, which is good. Conrad started proper driving lessons now, my eldest son. He turned 17 in April, but has only just managed to find an official driving instructor. So we're taking him out sometimes as well, which is a little bit nerve-wracking. And I think that's it. So I'm sorry it's been so long since I recorded, and I'm sorry that I've come back with so little to share. But yeah, I really have been terribly busy. But I hope you enjoyed what you did see. Hopefully the next time I can record, I will have finished the cardigan and will have lots of new cast-ons to tell you about. Please don't forget that tickets go live on Saturday the 18th of September for newsletter subscribers and on Sunday the 19th for the general public for the Knit Tea Retreat this October. Click the links down below to find me and the retreat and Carter of Yarn and all of the details about the things that I've talked to you about today. If you enjoyed today, please give me a thumbs up and click subscribe, and hopefully I'll be back in a couple of weeks rather than a couple of months. Okay, happy knitting everybody, and I'll see you soon. Bye.